Welcome into K-State Online. I am Mason Voth. That is Derek Young. Here we are, Thursday, September 4th. It's the start of the NFL season. I get to watch the Cowboys lose tonight by probably at least double digits to the Eagles. But K-State football, at least they didn't lose. They came very close, and we'll be reminded of that fact moving on for the next however long it will end up being until they really – I don't know, show us something. I don't know, the same type of deal as last week, where I don't know what you can do to get the fans and people to buy back in on you right now, unless they go out there and they just own Army 48-0. But even that, I don't know that does you much good at this point. There's a lot of winning people back over that K-State has to do.
First, I actually think the Cowboys are going to fare better on Thursday night against Philadelphia than you do, I think. Actually.
Heck yeah, love that. Well, you're just trying to be nice because you got Micah Parsons from us.
Well, maybe. No. The teams typically struggle a little bit, at least out of the onset on their own banner night. And look, the spread moved 2 points when Micah Parsons got traded. And look, I like Micah Parsons, but we weren't even sure he was going to play week 1 if he was healthy. So the fact that it moved that way, I at least think the Cowboys might cover. So for Kansas State, let's get back on track here as I took us off course. But I think if they were to win 48-0, I don't think they're going to get a lot of people to buy back in. But if they won 48-0, it would at least tell me that there is a chance that last week was a fluke, and that there is a chance that they're rectifying the problem that was, to me, they have multiple problems. I get that. There are multiple issues. You could pick this, you could pick that, offensive line, secondary, all these things, short yardage, red zone, special teams, you name it, they got it. But for me, it all comes back to 3 things: physicality, toughness, and discipline. And where I struggle with Kansas State a little bit this year in terms of how the rest of the season is going to unfold is that more often than not, those 3 things don't change in a program. They don't get better. They don't get worse. Not during a season, most of the time. And if they do, it's marginal. So, but if you go out and beat Army 48-0, I'm thinking, okay, maybe those 3 pillars and not having them could have been a fluke.
Yeah, I think that's your hope. I'll ask you this. Would it make you feel better if Iowa State went out and lost to Iowa this weekend?
No. Nothing that Iowa State's going to do is going to make me feel one way or the other. Because
I only asked that because Chris Kleiman, after the game last week, made his comment about, they all have a hangover game after Ireland. Some have it game 1, some game 2. That's where if they come out and Iowa State loses by 17 or something.
If Iowa State gets completely stomped by Iowa, I will think about that a little bit.
Okay.
As long as Kansas State covers against Army.
Yeah. Because then, you can't have 2 hangovers. If you have 2 hangovers, then you're an alcoholic if you're Kansas State. So that'd be the analogy that I would that I'd give them there. Look, this is significant for them just because you can't go out and blow it. Yeah. You saved yourself from embarrassment last week and kept the season on a track of it. The possibility's still there. You just it's about survival mode right now, and then if you can start stacking big, nice wins on top of one another.
I agree. It's spoiler alert. I think there is a non-zero chance that Iowa State does get smoked this week.
Hey, look, I'm not going to disagree.
There is, because typically it's 2 weeks after. Hopefully for Kansas State, it was the 1 week thing, right?
Yeah.
Because if it's 2 weeks, then we're in a boatload of problems that I don't really want to discuss this time next week. But if it's 2 weeks and Iowa State's playing the arch rival here, Iowa, and while Iowa is not nearly explosive enough to really dominate a team like Iowa State, in my opinion, this is the game that Kirk Ferentz always tries to. That dude loves nothing more in life than beating the crap out of Iowa State.
Yeah, that's true. We'll see how it goes, and we'll talk about that later on because there are actually a lot of notable Big 12 games going on. In terms of K-State Army specifically, Kleiman, the history against AAC teams, he's 1-2, lost to Navy and Tulane, beat Tulane last season. We also know that one of those was a service academy in Navy, and you want to worry about eye discipline. K-State lost that game because they got fooled pretty good on the final offensive play that Army ran, and then they kicked the field goal, won the game, and got on with their lives from there to, in a disappointing way, in Chris Kleiman's first season, because it could have been a 9-win first season for K-State, and instead it ended in the disgusting AutoZone Liberty Bowl.
To be honest,
I hope we never go back there.
It's funny that I don't even think about losing that game as much as that bowl game in general just being crappy. So I don't even like when we talk about like top 5, top 10 like worst losses of the Kleiman era. That Navy game registers.
And that was a good Navy team. Yeah. I don't know if they were top 25 at the time, but I think they finished the year in the top 25. Yeah. They might have been 25 when that game got played. I'm like, they were 23.
They were close, and they had a good quarterback. Was it Keenan Reynolds?
Malcolm Perry was the quarterback, but who got some time in the NFL actually.
Yep.
So they were. I mean, that was a very good Navy team. They went 11-2, 23rd ranked team.
Was that the last good Navy team?
Might have been. Ken Niumatalolo probably didn't think it was going to go downhill because they went 3-7 the next year, 4-8 the next year, 4-8, 5-7, and now he's at San Jose State. Because the first year without him, they went 9-3.
We might talk about him later on in the show.
Yeah, true. So with this matchup, eye discipline has been probably the hot button topic.
Drinking game. If you drank every time you heard eye discipline in the last 6 days, how hammered are you right now?
Yeah, you're out of it. You're in the mix with.
You're going to miss the game.
You're in the mix with K-State staring down 2 straight hangovers.
And maybe Jay Sean Ross.
Oh, okay. I'm not going to touch that one. Jeez. Jay Sean Ross, no longer on the team at K-State, was arrested.
In defense of Kansas State, not that they need it, I'm pretty sure he was dismissed from the team before the arrest, whereas that's why he's apparently in the early hours of Thursday morning in Crawford County.
Couldn't even point to Crawford County on a map. So with the eye discipline, like you watched, I'm sure, part of Army last week against Tarleton State. Tarleton beat them in overtime. It was not a team that looked like a good football team, but it's going to be the normal Army offense or what you'd expect from a service academy. So I think people were freaked out about Army before the year already because you just assume, well, there's the history with Navy. There's, this team does seem to get fooled every once in a while. Now you add on top of it that North Dakota had a little misdirection. They hung with you. They forced you to pull a rabbit out of your hat at the end. Like, legitimately, how concerned are you about K-State's defense facing Army?
Yeah, I am concerned. like they can hold the ball for an entire quarter. And if you're Kansas State right now, the only way you're winning is when your offense kind of gets out of its own way and plays well enough and gets explosive. You're not even doing it on a down-to-down, possession-to-possession basis. You're just looking for a big play on offense. But that's your answer right now, whether it be against Iowa State or North Dakota. So, I'm concerned. Like I said, 3 pillars here: discipline, physicality, toughness. Which team do you not want to see when you're suffering from those 3 things? One of them is Army. You beat yourselves. Army wins games because they capitalize on teams beating themselves. So, very concerned. Now, concerned to the point where I think they're going to lose. I mean, spoiler alert, they're going to pick K-State to win, but they're bad enough to lose this game. Let's be real. They're bad enough right now to lose this game, and to make me think that they might have still a shot to compete for a Big 12 title, which that is so stupid to talk about right now. I get it. But they would have to win something like 48-0, because if they win 48-0, like you said, then I start to think okay, maybe the toughness, physicality, discipline thing was a 2-game issue or something along those lines. They did just beat a Greg Schiano coach team who is always tough, discipline, and physical in a bowl game. So I don't think that this program is completely lacking in it, but it doesn't have enough. And maybe this year's team has even less than last year. We're about to find out. So it's one of those things. Now, do I think Army is very good? No. But the Tarleton State that just beat them in overtime would probably beat North Dakota by multiple scores.
Oh, so you don't buy any of the North Dakota is going to be good this year, Tom?
No, and there's a chance that Tarleton State's a top 5 FCS team.
So you say, well, it feels silly to talk about Big 12. I don't think it is, just because that's the expectation from this team. Anything else that happens this year doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's the standard. It's the expectation. And if anything short of that this year is a complete disappointment. I say that because they have not played well enough the first 2 games to really bring that into the conversation.
And so on that topic, you mentioned toughness. You appear to not think that this is a very tough team, maybe the least tough that Kleiman has had. Is it possible for a team to lack it as much as you think this one does and still be able to win a Big 12 title they need to?
No, because they got to run the ball to get there, and they haven't done that yet.
So, so right now as we sit here, yes, crazy things can happen, but you don't think this team has a real shot at all
until they prove to me that the first 2 games were a complete misnomer. I don't think this is a Big 12 title contender right now.
How likely do you think it is that scenario gets flipped in your head with this team?
Not likely. Not.
Okay.
I'm not saying it's a completely impossible or really true, but everyone that's listening watches college football every year. Probably you watch college football every year. When there is a team that you pinpoint early on in the year that is not tough, that is not physical, and that is not disciplined, by the end of the season, are they any of those 3 yet? Not a lot.
Yeah, I guess it's the key would be thinking, have there been teams where you look at them and you go, okay, take their 2 or 3 worst games from that season. Yeah. And would you have thought that? And is it just because K-State threw them at the top of the season that? That's what you're talking about.
Yeah, but you could have bad games and still be tough physical and discipline.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of,
because even Baylor last year, they figured it out, right? They got hot late. That was not a tough physical and disciplined football team. And that's why they had too much of a hole to ever get out of. TCU last year, they also finished strong. That was not a tough physical disciplined football team. That's why the hole was too big for them to crawl out of.
So is it just the lack of run game success that you think this for K-State, or where else does the toughness?
No one punches anyone in the mouth. No one imposes their will. They just kind of go through the motions and say, we're talented, because they are. This is one of the more talented teams I've ever covered at K-State. I've never seen some of these players that are as physically pretty as some of these guys are.
It might be the best back-to-back performances from wide receivers we've ever seen since Kleiman took over.
Yeah. And the only thing I would say is a little bit different than that is a little bit 2017, and they probably were muffled because the rest of the team sucked, basically. But when you have Byron Pringle, Isaiah Zuber, and Dalton Schoen, that's a pretty good trio, right? I'm pretty sure. Or was that 17 or 18? They had those 3.
Yeah, no. Well, it would have been. They all would have been there, and that would have been.
I know Schoen wasn't totally breaking in yet, but he had Pringle and Zuber.
Because Bill didn't seem to trust him.
Yeah, and Pringle and Zuber both played in the NFL. So there was that, and then
but for a Kleiman team, 22 was good and respectable, but
22 is their best group, and this group is more talented than that 22 one. But that 22 one was a lot tougher because no one's going to out tough Cade Warner, and he exceeded all expectations that year, basically just because he is tough.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're probably not encouraging too many people with how you feel about it right now. So
I mean, it's not common for a team to reverse these traits. It's not impossible. It is not common.
Do you think that part of the problem offensively is because the offensive line has been out of whack. And is there a group that could be thrown out there together that could correct course?
Yeah, and maybe George Fitzpatrick come back in a few weeks, rectifies a little bit of it, because I think it allows a lot of these guys to fall into place to where they probably should be both positionally and in the pecking order. But that doesn't make them physical.
Yeah. That
Like,
I get that.
Like they're just, you like they gotta get mean and nasty and gritty and just, it's an attitude, it's a mindset, it's an approach, it's a mentality. You could be a good offensive lineman and not be physical.
Well, might need to get Patches O'Houlihan down here and get him fired up like he did Gordon Pibb in Dodgeball. That might do the trick for you.
I haven't seen that movie in forever.
I mean, come on, Patches.
Gordon
Pibb.
I've seen it once or twice ever. So
guy with the glasses.
The last time
they
might
need
have
to
been
come through.
Last time might have been 20 years ago, if the movie's even that old.
Patches hits him with the, you got to get angry, you got to get mean. Man, that's a Dodgeball.
And this is coming across. I'm just calling these guys soft, and I will never do that, because it is easy to call someone soft when you're sitting in a comfy computer chair behind a desk. Mm-hmm. So I'm not qualified to call anyone soft, but I am smart enough to know when you're not being physical or tough enough.
Yeah. Well, that doesn't make me feel better about trying to trick myself into thinking that this team can still be good. Because I mean,
they got a shot, but they got to change who they are more than what they're doing.
Well, and I guess then to continue on, to get back to the defense thing, how much of the eye discipline that gets brought up, because that could be more of a broad subject, is because guys don't have the idea of where they need to be, or because they don't have the hustle and the toughness that you're talking about to get to the right spot, or fight through things to get to the right spot.
It was a little bit of hustle probably against North Dakota, because you can't fail like that against that kind of team without having the appropriate amount of motor and effort and desire. Yeah. So that was part of it. But in some cases, it's probably maybe guys still trying to figure it out a little bit. But like VJ Payne's not trying to figure it out. That guy's played 40 games.
Yeah, I mean, that's the concern for the defense, is that you have some guys that needed to step up that have played a lot that haven't really yet, and then the others it's going to take time. And I think, the coaches can't be absolved of all this. You got to be able to try and find the right guys to be out there. And I understand that you come in with your idea of this guy needs to play or has earned the right to play. When he gets into a game, I think you gotta try to shift things around. And to Chris Kleinman's credit, he said that they'd like to try and do that more, and they need to do it more based off how things have gone. But it's just not a fun team to talk about right now. You think about the last couple of years. Yes, things have gotten a little dicey and gone off the rails at a few points, but it hasn't ever felt this bleak for this team as it does through these two games. Even that stretch of the back-to-back losses. I mean, maybe we got there after the Arizona State game last year, but even then, this feels a whole lot different, probably because it's at the start of the season. Let's talk. Go ahead.
I would say, and for those that are pissed off, you're like, you guys got it wrong. All these things you were saying off season, you were totally stupid. This and that. Well, we're not immune from mistakes or buying into the wrong hype. The running backs without Dylan Edwards really haven't been good enough. They're not getting helped out much by the offensive line, of course, but they haven't been dynamic enough. But losing Dylan Edwards is pretty critical. Avery Johnson had a really good game against Iowa State, and then a probably fortunate/lucky game against North Dakota based on what he escaped in terms of his mistakes. But how many times did we say this offseason, the question marks for this team that could hamper their ability to reach their potential was the offensive line and the secondary? We've nailed that. Like we said, that the offensive line and secondary would have some growing pains, and they'd have to maneuver and navigate around them to be good. They haven't maneuvered or navigated around them well. Those two positions are killing them right now, quite frankly.
Yeah, and they've been even worse than to some extent, I thought might be possible. I thought we might see some
But
growing
we were
pains.
right in that those were the two
Yeah,
question
we
marks
knew
and
that
weak
those
links.
were the two things that probably were going to hold them back the most.
And it
And
definitely is. It's probably holding them back more than we thought, but here it is. So don't tell me that we're stupid all of everything we said all off season when we knew that. We got that right. Now we were erring on the positive side like we do. We run a fan site. That's kind of how it works a little bit. But we got those things right, that those were going to be the weak links. We said the wide receiver room would be tangibly better and demonstratively better. And I know that there's some drops that have been egregious that they have to eliminate, but it's been a pretty good wide receiver group so far.
yeah, no, it's just you look at this team
They
and
got block. They can't
the
block.
the offensive line we thought could be a struggle. I'm not sure I anticipated them not being able to really run the ball at all as a problem. And then
Yeah.
the secondary, it's playing out at corner, maybe similar to how you would expect. But the real problem there is that VJ Payne is not playing like a guy that he should play like, and it's clear that Gunnar
I'll be honest,
Maldonado isn't 100% healthy.
The secondary looks just like last year.
Yeah, and maybe that's the issue is then like they
Because
haven't changed all that much.
And you have one corner that you feel good about, Zajon Rich, and
Yeah.
you're like, I don't know if we got another one. Hopefully the positive signs that we got from Marion Fortenberry against North Dakota sustain themselves. Because for me, I'm starting to consider him maybe should start going forward over Donovan McIntosh and Justice Clemens.
I think he probably needs to play more. I mean, you go and look, and he only played 24 snaps in the last game, and the only guys that played less than him that saw time on defense were Logan Bartley, a true freshman, Gabe Powers, who's had a really tough start as a transfer linebacker.
But 24 snaps was a lot more than is the week prior at Iowa State. And he's still getting over an injury, mind you, too.
Yeah, but, he felt like he was the first corner all season that I saw make a play on the ball.
That isn't Zajon Rich, yeah.
So, I don't know, even, I think Fortenberry had some physicality with his, but we'll see how it ends up playing out.
And I've liked Quay Moss, to be honest. I've liked Quay Moss.
He's got the energy. It's just it's got to, he's got to channel it to where it's because right now it's like it's a one step forward, one step back thing for him, where he's got one thing where he pops and then another where he might get burned a little.
I like Zajon Rich. I think I'm going to like Marion Fortenberry, so maybe they found the second answer at corner. I like Quay Moss at the nickel that's playing that position. It's, to be honest, it's a safety spots again, just like last year, except now you're getting it so far a worse version of VJ Payne for whatever reason. And then the free safety, it's just you're going through growing pains there. I get it. Gunnar Maldonado coming back from an injury, still trying to figure out how things work in this defense. Logan Bartley's a true freshman. Wesley Fair's getting his first real meaningful snaps of his career. Free safety, I guess, can probably be excused away the most, but it is hurting them.
Yeah, they got issues going around right now. All right, let's move on. Let's dive into best bets to break up the sadness talk. We'll get back to that in just a little bit. Recap of how last week went for us. Both went 1-2. Hawaii just
4-2 on the year.
Rolled over there. K-State, boy, that was great. That felt good in the moment watching all that go down. And then Texas. Equally disappointing based on how some of those other teams played. And then Nebraska, you laid it out there just how, I guess,
that wasn't even a bad bet.
The outcome was that they won by 3 and didn't cover, and Cincinnati also couldn't.
The Texas one never felt like was going to cover, but Nebraska felt like at times it would. So that was a little disappointing. South Carolina cruise for you. Hawaii never really had a shot against Arizona either, which is a little surprising.
And Fafita didn't even play well. That's the frustrating thing, is that they just turnovers.
Are you keeping our total records on these for the year? Because I think I'm 4-2.
Yep, they're right there in the middle. 4-2, pointing towards your side. 2-4, pointing towards mine. So we'll keep a look on that. This week, what we got? I'm taking NC State -2.5 at home. They face Virginia. Virginia's like, maybe, but Chandler Morris is out. Colorado gets to play at home against Delaware, who just made the jump up, only 23.5. That felt good. Had some others I thought about throwing in there, but LSU to win by 38 against Louisiana Tech at home, that felt like one that I'm good with taking. So those are the three that I'm rolling out there this week, and hopefully I go 3-0 and get above 500.
Obviously, I'll let you judge mine as well. I like all of yours, two of yours. The one that makes me a little skittish is LSU coming off that win over Clemson. They might. I don't know if they're going to be fat and happy.
Yeah, but I also thought to myself, they should do it. They should, go out there, and I'm just there. And then there were some others that I liked, but I was like, I'm not that brave.
I also hate
those
in-state games because like guys from Louisiana Tech, they're like, "Well, LSU didn't recruit me," and they play out of their minds for some reason.
The one that I considered if I wanted to go for bonus points was Fresno State's +3 against Oregon State. I think Fresno State wins the game.
Was LSU your third favorite of those three?
Yes, that's Colorado probably number one on there.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
NC State by a field goal with Virginia.
I just don't know enough about NC State and Virginia.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel great about NC State, but also I was like, I don't feel good about Virginia either. They're down a quarterback.
Virginia's never been good since Tony Elliott took that job.
I considered Houston -14 at Rice. We talked about that one.
I liked Houston a lot more when it was just 12.5.
Yeah, it's changed a little bit. So, all right. Well, I see you've got, the last two Big 12 champions on your board, and then Ball State. I don't know if they've ever won anything.
Right. Arizona State, here's my thinking. Like, they probably didn't play as well as they would have liked against Northern Arizona, and Kenny Dillingham basically said that. So this kind of a pride game for them. And I'm guessing Mississippi State also feeling good about themselves all of a sudden. I'm guessing last week it was not because Mississippi State is any good. That's my guess. And also, how bad does it look for the Big 12 if one of your best teams, perhaps your best team, the defending Big 12 champion, is not a touchdown better than like the worst SEC team?
Yeah, gotta have it.
Like, to be honest, Arizona State has to win comfortably, or it looks bad for the Big 12, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I'm down for Arizona State there. I also have them covering. I just don't know how good I feel about it because of, maybe they're going to be a little wonky out of the gates this year. They were a little slow out of the gates last season.
That's true. Yeah. If you look back on it in retrospect, that's definitely the case. Texas, I love because I think this is the game where they're kind of pissed and angry about what happened last week against Ohio State. Arch Manning's kind of guy to me that's not going to fold up. Like, I don't know how good Arch Manning is. I don't think he's this generational prospect that Paul Feinbaum tried to make him out to be in the offseason, saying he's basically better than Tim Tebow. But I don't think Arch Manning's also the kind of guy to basically dwell in Ohio State loss and not show up this week. So the only thing is it's -36.5 full game, which I kind of like too. But I'll go first half here just to protect against a potential backdoor cover.
Texas has been a slow starter in the last couple of seasons against their G5 opponents at home. So while that caught my eye initially, I was like, I might be a little bit leery of that.
If I lose, that's probably the reason. But if I win, it's because they feel like they have a statement to make after really not.
Yeah. I mean, you go back 2 years ago, they were only up 16-3 at halftime on Rice. They were only up 10-7 at halftime on Wyoming. They were tied 10-10 after the third quarter in that game. Last year, they were a little bit better, though. They were up 31-0 at halftime on that giant loser, Jay Norvell in Colorado State. So we'll see what version of Texas you get this year. But you're right. They should be frustrated and go out there and try to put it on them early.
Yeah, they're playing San Jose State. I told you we'd mention Ken Niumatalolo again. So
shout out, Ken.
Ball State +42.5. I actually love this. Like, Auburn under Hugh Freeze just always seems to have, like, they don't maintain their level of play. They just beat Baylor. Like, this is the time that they have always collapsed under Hugh Freeze. And I think beating Baylor the way they did and getting the headlines that they did, I think makes it tough to cover 42.5 against Ball State. And I don't know a damn thing about Ball State. And if I lose, that's probably why, because they might be a lot worse than I'm even thinking. But I just don't think Auburn runs away.
Well, if you want some reference points, 2 years ago, Auburn was only up 17-0 at halftime on Samford before they pulled away. And then last season, they were up 17-13 at halftime on New Mexico.
Right.
So
Maybe I should have took the first half, but they lost to a group of 5 team too under Heath Reed.
Yeah, I'm trying to think which that would have been, but
Right before Alabama or something, or was
yeah, they lost to New Mexico State 2 years ago.
There it is.
Yeah,
Yep.
then yeah, and they haven't. I mean, I'm looking at it right now. They beat Samford by 32. They beat UMass by 45. But UMass. I mean, Ball State's better than UMass.
I hope.
And then last year they beat New Mexico 45-19. Ultimately, they lost to Cal. They beat UL Monroe only by 34. So I think they don't get to 43 very often in games like this.
So. No, and like I said, I don't know anything about Ball State. If I get this wrong, it's because Ball State's a lot worse than I thought. It's not going to be because Auburn is all of a sudden a world beater.
Yeah, we'll blame it on the G5 school. All right. We'll move on and get back to talking about K-State. All right, so back to talking about the Cats and the Knights this weekend. I mean, what works for this K-State defense? Give us the best case, worst case scenario for this game on Saturday.
Best case is the guys stay assignment sound. They don't try to do too much. They're not trying to do everyone else's job. They do theirs in conjunction with the way the defense is supposed to work. And they clamp down. They dominate the line of scrimmage. And really the key defensively, if you're playing Army, is to do well on first and second down. Because if you get Army in third and even more than 5 or 6, you're doing something right. So it's first and second down. Because if you get to third and short, you've already lost. If you get to fourth and short, really, you've already lost. So I don't think it's as much as what they are doing on third and fourth down, because if it's third and fourth and short, Army's probably going to win that competition. They're probably going to win that battle. It's about what you're doing on first and second down to make third and fourth down unreachable for them, in my opinion. So the best case scenario is to win on first and second down. Worst case scenario is you don't, right? And you don't attack the line of scrimmage, that your eye discipline is not good, eye discipline drink, and that Army gets to play their game, right? You don't want to play Army's game where they basically just capitalize on your mistakes. They get 3 or 4 yards about each time, and even if it takes 3 or 4 plays, they get the first down. They basically possess the ball for nearly an entire quarter. They shrink the game. And then when you realize that you have to overcommit and over-dedicate because you're getting beat, you do lose your eye discipline. You have your eyes in the backfield. You are following the ball, and they kind of sneak one out on you through the air at times, 1 or 2 times. That happened when Kansas State played Navy in 2019 in the Liberty Bowl, to be quite honest, and why they really lost. So that would be the worst case scenario, and then those are the kinds of plays that get you beat.
Yeah, no, I look at this best case scenario. Army essentially gets nothing going. That would tell you a lot about the offense or the defense. You look at it and go, oh man, it feels like they're not moving it much. Early 3 and outs, you're getting the ball back. The worst case would be is that the D continues to just look absolutely lost. And then what that leads to is Army being in the game and the offense has to, like you said, kind of overcompensate, and it leads to complacency. And that's where they could have been cost the game last week, where I think Avery Johnson still played fine last week. Yeah, he had too many throws that you just can't have on a day in, day out basis. It didn't beat him last week. There's a world though where you make those same throws this week, then it does you in, it sinks you. So they're going to have to be able to just have better control of this game, because that's the real problem. K-State, not until the third quarter, had more than a touchdown lead more than a 3-point lead on North Dakota. They were never really the ones being able to dictate how that game felt on Saturday. And you need to be able to do that against Army to give you at least a little bit of a better feeling going into next week. But we'll see. Obviously, the best case score scenario is 48-0. With everything we know, who needs to step up on defense this week for K-State? I mean, I might guess that your pick is going to be VJ Payne, because he hasn't really done anything yet and he's underwhelmed. But is there something different you're thinking?
Yeah, It's a little. I mean, I kind of
It's not the easiest matchup to say a safety needs to step up, though, when it's,
Well, actually, the safeties in the run fit a lot more, so they're more important than people think. They kind of gloss over that, but I actually go to two players that are not VJ Payne. To be quite honest, I go to Austin Romaine. If you're an All-American linebacker, this is the kind of game you thrive in, and you get everybody else around you right. That's if you're an All-American. Right now, you're not playing like it. If I'm being quite honest, you're playing solid. You're playing good, right? If you didn't have All-American expectations, people would be like, nice job, Austin Romaine. You're doing a really good job. But you have All-American expectations, and you're playing in a defense that's been completely lousy to this point. So you're not going to get that All-American decorations and all of these things if you don't get everyone right and you don't make this defense good. Like, no one cares about a really good individual and a bad defense, right? That's completely being honest. And against a team like Army, like, you can really impose your will and be a dude. So that's where I am. Like, let's see the All-American version of Austin Romaine. Like, what was it the year that Oklahoma played Army? Kenneth Murray had almost 30 tackles, I think.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you off of that. Does Austin Romaine get to 20 tackles in this game? Like, should he?
To be honest, it'd be better if he didn't, because if he got to 20 tackles, like Kenneth Murray got to 30, you know what that tells me, though? It tells me that Army got to do what they wanted, that Army got to play the game that they wanted. Because if you're playing enough plays and snaps to where you're getting 30 tackles, that means there was probably 60 plays, and an Army just possessed the ball and kept it for an entire freaking quarter. I don't think a high number of tackles is actually a good thing. I think a low number of tackles is a good thing, because that probably means you got the 3 and outs that you needed. True. If you're getting 20, 30 tackles, you didn't get 3 and outs, man. That's the way I look at it. I also look at Tobias Insomni in this game, because as a defensive end, as an edge rusher, that really has been poor against the run because he hasn't set the edge, that he's been a little bit undisciplined as a run defender on the edge. Yeah. He has to be good, or guess what? Army's going to feast on Tobias Insomni if he doesn't get right.
All right. I like those picks there. Romaine, no name, VJ Payne, got to be better. I think you need to see somebody else at linebacker kind of step up. And I've been underwhelmed the last year plus by Desmond Purnell's contributions. I think that you would like to be getting more out of him at times than you do. Like, this is a good opportunity for him to do that. On the offensive side, I mean, this probably just comes back to like the offensive line. So maybe to simplify it, like, I think that we would anticipate more Devon Rice in this game than the last few weeks. I'll just ask you about the running backs instead of trying to get a player out of you here. What do you expect to see from the running backs this week and how that split works?
I hope that they can have a little bit of Dylan Edwards, but again, like, this is not an ideal game to kind of come back, because any chance or threat of a re-injury, I think, is a little bit more exacerbated when playing Army. To be quite honest, I think you can get rolled up in the
Are you saying they're dirty?
No, I think you just No, I think you just get rolled up and in the muck a little bit more. Like, especially if it's an ankle, like, it's easy to re-aggravate an ankle just in a pile, right? So, like, Army is not ideally the game. So, but it wouldn't hurt to maybe try to get an explosive, give him 5 or 10 snaps and see.
Yeah, if he can go at all, I think you do put him out there, because you need some kind of jolt just to maybe feel good. Like, it doesn't need to be overkill, but
overkill is what you have to avoid. I'll say this: if Joe Jackson ain't popping, don't be afraid to go to Devon Rice, because he's been better.
Yeah, he showed something last week, so I think you got to reward him for it. I'll finish by asking this: what do you expect out of Avery Johnson in this game?
Just be more. I don't know what the word is. Like, just be more under control, less reckless, I guess. Like, if you're playing any team that has a little bit more skill and talent or hands, I think he throws almost 4 interceptions last week. Just be more composed. Be just more in control. Like, Rocco Beck's numbers basically every week I look at him and I'm like, what the heck is this guy? But when you watch the actual game, it just feels like he has just like the fiercest grip on a game that's never going to get away from him at any point. And I know that drives people insane because it's like he's not good. Look at his numbers. I agree. Go look at his numbers. He's not good. But when the game is in balance, he makes that play when they absolutely need it the most. And he never seems to lose the grip of the game. Like it feels like he knows what buttons to push and when. He is the exact pulse of everything. It's a knack. Not everyone has it. It's very uncommon. But I just want Avery to have a little bit of that in this game where I don't expect him to just throw it around the yard for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns every game. Just feel like you're in control. Just feel like you have a good pulse on the game, know what buttons to push and when.
I think the concern might be with what happened last week is that when things were falling apart, instead of throwing the ball away or eating it, it was forcing it into danger and still trying to get it to a receiver, which is something that I'll do on the PlayStation, but is ill-advised in real life.
Technique was way off, which was the culprit of a couple balls that should have been intercepted. The touchdown to Jerron Tibbs, he threw that like 5 seconds too late. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, well, you talk about technique. That's probably one that still shouldn't have been thrown.
No, that ball has to be thrown. That ball has to be thrown earlier.
Well, early, yeah. By the time he threw it, he should not have thrown it.
And you also have time to collect yourself to where when you do throw it, you could put more on it. Like that ball was lobbed because he never collected.
Yeah, he had for the way he had to throw it there. It was ill.
He didn't have to throw it that way. He could have collected himself.
Yeah,
he got away from the pressure.
I thought his running was better last week. I thought it was more along the lines of what we wanted to see. It was
definitely better in that last drive, which is why they scored. Yeah.
Yeah, there were a few other points in the game though where I thought he took off in a much more convincing way.
I want to see 23 miles per hour in a game. That's what I want to see.
Do you think is this the week to want or need him to run? Because there was a lot of talk about that. And
yeah, I know Kleiman talks about that. Look, I'll be honest. People know that I'm not the biggest Ryan Wallace fan, but he's right. He actually put out numbers for like guys that are similar stature to Avery, Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels. They average like 4 or 5 more carries a game, never got hurt.
Yeah, I think the overall thought behind that, he definitely needs to run more.
I think they protect him too much.
It's part of your skill. You should do it. I will say, like, on the one-off of the North Dakota game, I understand Chris Kleiman's point of view because you go into that game, that's not a game where you should need it or want to do it.
One-off North Dakota, you're completely right, but let's not act like this is a one-off.
Yeah, no, that's the problem is that we have last year to go off of and realize it wasn't enough and it needs to change. And like, this is probably a good game to start with it, especially when you're not playing well. Like, think about when things weren't going well last year. They came out that game against Cincinnati and they did have Avery run it more frequently early in the game. They got up big. They cruised. It was a comfortable win. Go out, set the tone, do it against Army.
And Ryan Wallace hits a nail on the head. Like when you have that kind of weapon, your instinct can't be to muffle it. Like Jaden Daniels and Lamar Jackson were never protected this much. They weren't. Like they have to utilize his legs. They do. Like, I don't want to hold back as much as I have in the past, thinking that they got to protect him here, protect him there. Like quarterback sneaks and tush push. Like, I think that's stupid. I'm not going to use Avery Johnson in those because I do think that the potential for injury is exaggerated in those instances. And I don't even think he's that physical of a quarterback to really utilize in those kinds of settings either.
Offensive line is not good enough either way.
When you have a quarterback that can run 23 miles per hour, don't brag about it unless you're going to use it enough. That's what I'm saying. Like that when you said we have 4 players that are 23 miles per hour and one's our quarterback. Yeah, great. But we never see him run 23 miles per hour in a game. So what's it mean?
All right, prediction time. What do you see the score as and how it plays out?
24-14. I can see Kansas State scoring on about half of their possessions, 1 a field goal. And maybe they probably turn Army on downs a couple times to help, because I'm sure we're going to see some aggressive fourth down decision making from Army. And whether or not Army can get to 24 will probably be contingent upon what they do on those fourth down conversions.
I think I'll say 31-17. If you're trying to get me to say, is it closer one way or the other, a blowout or a tight game, I think it's more likely it's tight, especially the way this team is playing. It's just they're not playing great right now. They're not playing very inspiring, and so to think that they can live up to the number that's out there, 17.5, is kind of tough. And Army can just kind of choke the clock away. I went to go look. You talked about the Kenneth Murray tackle game in 2018. He had 28 tackles. It set the Oklahoma record, which coincidentally is also the same single game tackle record for K-State. In that game, Kyler Murray had a QBR of 99.4. He was 11 of 15 for only 165 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a pick. And Oklahoma only had 165 yards rushing and 190 yards rushing and 165 yards passing. It's because in the game, they scored a touchdown their first 3 possessions, only had one other possession in the first half. And then in the second half, also only had 4 possessions. It's just not it's Army can do that to you if they're right. And this defense could give you the opportunity to play like that if you're Army.
That's why if they score 31 like you're suggesting, I think that's probably a good thing, because they just scored 35 only on North Dakota.
And actually, I should amend what I said there. OU only got 3 possessions in the second half because the game went to overtime. So
they scored 38 on North Dakota. If they score 31 on Army, that's a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
Really.
I think the offense is going to ultimately be.
I don't know if they can run the ball.
But
I don't. Maybe later.
Yeah, but I think they can. I think they can get by in a lot of games still with their passing on offense right now. I know some people, like last week, was not great in terms of the decision making. It didn't kill them though, and I think there's been enough to be encouraged by with that circumstance. But they have to figure out how to run the ball, because you're not going to go and win the at least 7 games that's necessary for this team in Big 12 play if you can't run the football. So you got to figure that out.
Yeah.
All right. Let's finish it off. Big 12 scoreboard. Look around the rest of the league. There are 6 games this week with power conference matchups for non-conference play. It starts at 11 a.m., maybe the most notable for the league this weekend. The Cyhawk game at 11 on Fox. Big noon is there for Iowa State and Iowa. The Clones are 3.5-point favorites. I actually think Iowa wins this game.
Me too.
I'm subscribing to the hangover theory, and also the road team seems to get more wins in this series recently than the home team. And it feels like the perfect storm where, Iowa State's got this momentum. They're off to the hot start that they would like, and Iowa's going to come in and make it crash and burn on them. And they're getting their chuckles off because Gronowski looked like crap last week. I think he comes in and maybe gives it to Iowa State a little bit.
I agree. And Kirk Ferentz, I think, actually values this rivalry more than Matt Campbell.
Yeah. Oh, well, we know Iowa State's not big on valuing rivalries in general. So
we do.
We'll see what comes out of it.
They'd rather never play K-State again, even though they're beating K-State.
Which makes it so bizarre. Another 11 a.m. game. Maybe Thom is going to be on the call. Your former Cincinnati Red man.
Cincinnati Red.
Yes, CW Sports is the home for SMU and Baylor.
You know what? Winners and losers this week CW should be a winner for getting this good of a game.
Yeah, I'd like to know why ESPN didn't end up with this or something. Or
ESPN would rather have Kansas State and Army, I guess.
Yeah. So SMU Baylor.
Well,
I'd like to say the Bears, but I'm going to go with SMU just because I think that the Baylor defense might be weak still.
Yeah, it's funny that this, I would expect ACC Network before the CW.
Well, this is broadcast television. The whole country's going to get this game now.
Yeah, I'm going to take SMU too. It might not be close. I don't know if people are ready for this, but I have a sneaking suspicion that Baylor might suck.
Yeah, well, That's big of you to admit, because this was the biggest Sawyer Robertson podcast on the planet last
I know,
summer.
but I think Baylor has the same kind of physicality and toughness problem that K-State has.
Are they? Would you call them softer than K-State?
We'll find out in Waco.
Yeah, true. That game will be sponsored by Charmin. All right, let's move on. 2:30 window now. This is where it gets really fun. The border war showdown, whatever you want to call it, to try and beat PC these days. KU and Missouri are getting together. It'll be the border war to me. I'm excited.
Is that really being legislated out? Border war?
Yeah, they don't call it the border war anymore. I think they haven't called it that since a decade ago. I don't know how they've changed it to this
point.
The
Jayhawks.
I kind of do too. Yeah, for sure to cover.
I think there's a world where Mizzou is worse than last year, and I don't think that's like jumping to anything ridiculous. And I said this before the year, like Lance Leipold, I think there's a ceiling that he's unable to ultimately get to. But I think when Lance Leipold, you're going to get toughness, physicality, and discipline, right? So I also think there's a pretty high floor there, and that's why they can win games like this.
Yeah. They killed border war in 2004, DY. That's how long they've axed this beautiful name of the border war.
I don't want to get into politics, but speaking of soft, that's soft.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right.
Nope. You don't agree?
No, it is soft. I said this on some show very recently. I don't like
the rivalries that even eliminate the thought of civil war. Like,
yeah, we get it. We understand that real war is more serious than this. We understand that, Oregon State, it does not compare to the North and the South fighting over slavery. We get that. We're fully aware of it. But it happened a while ago. I think we can get past it and we can laugh because it is a civil war. It's just the same type of thing. America fighting America, Oregon fighting Oregon. Come on, let's not be little kids about this. We understand what is an actual war and what is.
When we got rid of the Red River shootout too. Like, really?
Yeah. Because every time they pop off one of those little pop guns, I think, real guns.
How many times did Lee Corso shoot a gun on game day? Come on.
Yeah. Well, and he didn't get canceled, obviously.
No.
So
he dropped an F-bomb on live TV and didn't get canceled.
Yeah, invincible, bulletproof. Some would say.
Him and Charles Barkley, I would say. Yes.
Yeah. Just my thing. I've been on the record. I've said it. We all hate KU. We all hate Missouri. They're equally annoying.
Equally?
Yeah, I think they're pretty similar. They're both nasty people. But it's great for college football to have these games played still. And to get them back, K-State playing Colorado again was fun. Colorado and Nebraska when they played. K-State, Missouri. When you get to see these old conference mates play, then you kind of remember what college football is actually supposed to be about. So I'm glad we're getting this game. And this is, outside of K-State games this year, this is one of the games that I am most looking forward to, just because this is a traditional rivalry that I grew up with, that I'm looking forward to seeing what happens on the field, and then also what the fallout looks like when there's an outcome around 6:00 on Saturday.
Are you going to be on one of those message boards at about 6:00?
Well, I might have to check them out. That's for sure. Just see how the reaction's going.
Jayhawk Slant might be in jubilation if they win, though.
I think they will be. But I like that. I like how my pulse on my finger on the pulse of college football. Other 2:30 game. This won't be close. This will be bad for the Big 12.
No, it is my opinion, because I'm going to steal this take from Andy and Ari on 3. You should listen to them if you don't. Because even if they're not your favorite people, they make, sometimes the points that they make are not ones that you would organically come up with. They're very good about that. And I thought Ari Wasserman nailed it with Mike Gundy's press conference, basically when he was talking about Oregon spending 10 times as much as Oklahoma State. He's like, they were $40 million and we were $8 million or something like that. When a coach says that, he knows he's about to get his ass kicked.
Yeah, you're right. He's making some excuses. He's setting it
the
in right
premeditated excuse. Yep, because we're about to get our ass kicked.
Yeah.
What Ari called it, and I hate that this is the case, and I wish it wasn't. They're playing a different sport than we are.
Yeah. Well, and the fact that Gundy's not even trying to act like they are still playing the same sport, that's a little defeatist by him.
Yeah, and this is a program that was once completely funded by T. Boone Pickens.
And I mean, would have thought of themselves as needing to be on that level, but well, now he's dead, so they don't have him to go to and help fund them. It's just a fact. He's when people die, you quit getting their money for the most part. So I don't get birthday checks from my grandma anymore, DY. Oklahoma really State's not getting checks from T. Boone anymore.
We're really not going the politically correct angle on this podcast.
No, that's why I use my own grandma as an example.
Yeah,
I
missed her. I like it. I like it. We're a little bit edgy now.
I'm just setting the tone there for people. Yeah. All right, Arizona State, Mississippi State. This is a 6:30 game. This will be opposite K-State. We know. Look, K-State, Chris Kleiman, he's conquered Starkville before. Why can't Kenny Dillingham?
Yeah, I was told they're something about they're using like different and adequate cowbells now or something. I don't.
Yeah, I saw something about that they're not using the latest technology in cowbells. Arizona State gonna handle business. Late game, Stanford's got zero chance.
Look, I don't think BYU is good, but I think there's a chance that Stanford's the worst Power 4 program in America.
Well, I saw how they played against Hawaii. It made me think that Hawaii could hang with Arizona. So, yeah, I would agree with that, and I think BYU has a good time. Also, Bear Bachmeier revenge game, though.
So Stanford knows what they're getting.
Yeah. So, I don't think it matters. I think Stanford sucks.
I don't think BYU is great either. So, if BYU doesn't cover, it means they're as bad. They're worse than we think. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I just kind of hope it's close because I know that when I got back
a game to watch at night when you're bored.
Yeah, I just know when I got back to my brother's house on Saturday night and there were still games on, I was like, oh, this is no. Surprisingly, everybody was in bed in that house by like 11 o'clock.
Okay.
So I got a text while we were recording while we were doing the live show that said I'm hitting it, and I walked in, lights are completely off. I didn't realize that my brother had changed rooms in his house. Okay. And so I walked into what I thought was his room just to be like, hey, I'm here. You got a pillow or like a towel so I can shower? And I hear this voice go, hey. And I'm like, that's not my brother. And I look over, totally different dude in this room. And I was like, oh, is Bryant not sleeping in here anymore? He's like, no, he switched rooms. I was like, okay, well, I need to know which one he switched to. And he's like, just the one at the end of the hall. So I went in there, all good.
Your brother makes things awkward for you, man.
He does. Yeah, he's not. I mean, both of my brothers do.
I know, but that
one,
not as that one makes things like complicated.
They didn't adjust socially as well as I did. But I need this to be close because I got there and there were still games on and none of them were entertaining. So give it to me, BYU Stanford. All right. We will get out of here. That will do it for us in this week's edition of the KSO Preview Show. We will be back on next week. I guess maybe same time. It'll be Thursday, but the game will be a day earlier on Friday night. And then DY and I will be in Tucson. You'll have Drew and I tomorrow on Friday. We're going to have a recruiting update for you. And then Saturday we'll be live after the game, myself, Drew, and Jimmy, to go over everything we just witnessed from K-State and Army, plus loads of written content. So when you're sitting around on Saturday waiting for another night kickoff, you're going to have plenty of K-State content to consume and get you through the day. And then it'll be 6 o'clock and the Cats might let you down again, but as long as they win, that's at least better than losing. We'll see how it looks on Saturday night in Bill Snyder Family Stadium for Fort Riley Day. K-State tempting fate playing Army on Fort Riley Day. Hopefully they keep it rolling. Should they wear alternate uniforms? They've won 2 straight in the all white, DY. Maybe they need to go to it.
Yeah, just all uniforms every game. No.
Okay, all right, there you go. You heard it from DY. He wants to kill off the Power Cat and the traditional Bill Snyder uniform.
Bring him back.
No, okay, don't do that. We're gonna get out of here before DY says so. That will get you canceled. You're done.